We are very excited about episode 50 as we welcome Alex Romo. He has over 1.4 million followers on TikTok and over 42,000 followers on Instagram. Alex is a professional golfer who is big into fitness, self-improvement, and he is documenting his day-to-day routine, which is called Life on the Mini Tours. Alex, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you guys for having me. Excited to be here. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. This is episode 50. This is a big deal for us, that's for sure. So I'm glad to have you on here. Awesome. Let's dive into it. Can you give us a little bit of a backstory on how you got into the game of golf?
Absolutely. Yep. I started when I was 5 years old and I'm 31 now. So I've been playing my entire life. I played in high school, played in college. I was a walk-on for Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. And it actually took me a little while. That was my third attempt as a junior that I finally made the team and played for 2.5 years, which was pretty special. I always wanted to be a D1 golfer because that's kind of the path most guys take to become pros. And that was always my dream. But, you know, in the beginning, it was just something my dad and I did together. He taught me the game as a little kid, and I played all other sports growing up as well. And then somewhere around age 15, decided to specialize and try to get, you know, really good at one thing and play that in college. And golf was it for me. And if there was one moment that sort of, you know, made the difference for me that made me commit to golf for the rest of my life, it was a family trip that we took to Scotland. We played in St. Andrews actually in 2008.
The old course?
The old course. Yep.
Oh, man.
We saved up money. I know, dude. We saved money as a family for like 3 years. I wasn't good enough to play at the time either. You had to be like a 24 handicap to actually get a tee time there.
And I was like, that
I can get a tee time.
I can get a tee time.
We're set.
It might be different now, but back then they like were kind of gatekeeping for at least somewhat good golfers. And I wasn't good enough. So that was like my motivation to practice as like a 12, 13-year-old. It was all about this trip that we were taking as a family. And by the time I turned 16, we had saved enough money and I had gotten good enough at golf that we took the trip, played Carnoustie right after they had the British Open there. So had the grandstand set up, and then we played St. Andrews, played Kings Barnes, did a bunch of other travel. And I just got such like it's just mystical over there. I don't know how to put it into words until you go yourself, but special trip.
Imagine. Yeah, I was gonna say you played high school golf and you probably played a lot of other courses. So I was gonna ask you. I mean, is it like the Mecca? I mean, the old course. It's the history. It's where golf was created. But yeah, I would imagine you're walking on those grounds and it's just a whole other feeling.
It is insane. Yep, we did the whole nine. We had caddies and, you know, sat at the pub down the road afterwards and met different locals, and especially at that age in life when you're really impressionable and you can kind of go down a good path or a bad path. It was just like this profound experience that I'm forever grateful to my family for having the wherewithal to know that it was a big deal, because it was a time for us. It was like a pretty expensive thing to do, but made it happen and really changed my life. That changed the course of my life, because from that point forward, I've really never put the dream of golf down for more than, you know, a couple months here and there at a time. But yeah, it's a long story to get all the way to the present. But that's kind of the beginning of it.
Were you like a standout athlete in high school as far as golf, or did you get any offers originally? Or,
you know, I came from a small private Catholic high school, so I was a standout like in our league and at my school. But as far as being like a nationwide D1 prospect, I wasn't. I was more of like, you know, should be playing D3 or something like that. I was just kind of stubborn and wanted to play D1. And so I only applied to D1 schools and kind of only places where they had walk-on processes that you could do a tryout before the season started and have a chance. So yeah, Cal Poly was one of the few that sounded like they did bring on 1 or 2 walk-ons each year. And certainly wasn't easy, but yeah, I've been a late bloomer in every stage with golf, sort of late to get to that collegiate skill level. And then as a pro, it's still, you know, haven't gotten where I had hoped I would by this age, but thankfully golf is like the one sport you can kind of take your time with. And it's not impossible to pop up where you want to be at age 30, 35, 40. Yeah, there's crazy stories in this game. So I'm still.
Fortunately, we're not getting any younger, right? I mean, like I said, I'm 33 and I swear it's like some days I feel like I'm 21 and some days I feel like I'm 60. It just depends, you know. Depends on my body feels. I try to stay as active as possible, but
yeah, I won't say how old I am,
He's 48.
No, don't put that out there. The beauty of golf is like you can win at any age, right? Like we saw Phil Mickelson become the oldest player to win a major. And if you would have said it's Phil Mickelson and not someone like Tiger, I think everybody would have laughed at you. And then we're seeing, what's his name, dominate on the senior tour. Bernard
Langer,
yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Like just
Langer?
a dominant force. Like granted, senior tour, but still like holding his own. And I think golf in of itself is a timeless and ageless sport.
That's true.
Couldn't agree more. Yep.
I just kind of want to touch base too. You documented a video. You posted a video on Instagram. So right after college, you were getting ready to play in the pros, or you had a professional career lined up. And I don't know if you want to touch base or just kind of you had an injury, and it was kind of a severe one, so to speak, as far as where it was at, as far as location. Correct?
Right. Yeah. That was an interesting time. That was from 2014 to 2016. So I graduated from Cal Poly in 14. Was ready to start playing professional events in September. Had some sponsors lined up and felt like my game was peaking. And then a week before that first event was going to happen in September, it was just like a pain that I woke up with in my trap muscle, kind of like neck area. Just sort of felt like you slept wrong on your neck and it was kinked, and it would, be better in a couple of days. Practiced on it for like a day or two, made it worse. And then, within less than a week, we were just like taking doctors' meetings and trying to figure out like, what's going on here. This is definitely not a normal amount of pain for just sleeping wrong on my neck. And that turned into about a 2-year long saga of this injury that kept me away from golf. Pretty quickly had to cancel all the tournaments and just totally reroute life. We went probably for the first 6 months, my family and I, just a ton of different doctors' meetings, with the goal being just to diagnose like, what's the issue here, dude? Like, you didn't fall and break your collarbone. You have no prior trauma that you know of to that part of the body. I really had never broken any bones. Fairly healthy kid, and had always been in shape, always worked out, always played sports, and I never played football. That's the one thing I didn't do. So I never really got beat up too bad, I didn't think. But ultimately, the best answer we could come up with collectively with multiple doctors' opinions was just sort of like an overused, repeated strain injury to this very small joint called the sternoclavicular joint, which connects your sternum to your collarbone. I'd never heard of it. Few people ever have. It's this tiny little, seemingly insignificant joint, but when it is degenerative or strained, it can create a huge issue for a golfer. I'm a right-handed golfer, so when I swing open to the left-hand side and this left, pec opens up, that joint just had too much movement. It was like twice as open as the right side. And not to use too many medical terms, but there was something called—
You're bringing them all out. No, that's okay.
Everyone's gonna be Googling like, what the heck?
Yeah, we're learning stuff as we go.
It's called an avulsion, which is when, and maybe someone in the medical world will correct me because this was 8 years ago, I was learning about it, but I'm pretty sure it was basically like some of the collarbone had been strained so severely that the collarbone was like ripped off and floating in space within the joint. So it kind of, to me, felt as if I had rocks in my shoes, but on a higher pain scale. And so when just like moving this joint around just created popping and clicking, and it still does to this day. It's like the weirdest thing. But basically we determined that it came from a lot of golf, one-sided rotational athlete with very little counter rotational training, which can lead to imbalances. And then a ton of weightlifting. From probably age 14, I just got this like chip on my shoulder that everyone thought golfers were punks. And I was like, dude, I'm going to be Superman out here golfing. I was very inspired by Tiger. And so my parents, put a weight room in the house. And then I started wanting to lift with the football, basketball dudes in college. And so somewhere between age 14 and 22, I probably had done some improper lifting at way too heavy of a rate, and maybe just some combination of those things. But anyway, to condense the story, we went into PRP at first with a doctor in LA named Dr. Mark Darrow, incredible guy. And then we kind of stepped up to the next level, which was called stem cell injections. They're both a form of regenerative medicine. Stem cells was the most intense available at the time, where they take bone marrow out of your lower back, or it could be other places too. But for me, it was low back. Then they spin it up in a centrifuge and then re-inject the platelets, which is like a growth factor. They re-inject that into an injured area. So it was on like a weekly or every other week basis, going in, getting this kind of procedure done, get like 300 pokes around your neck in this area, and then just try to sit on your butt and rest. And so 0 golf, 0 working out, and just kind of this like real pivotal point in life of like, what am I doing? Am I ever going to get back to playing golf? And the one thing I glossed over there, sorry, was that as far as reconstructive surgery goes, that just wasn't an option. We learned over time, because the proximity of that joint to your aorta, which runs down the middle of your throat and is kind of like your lifeline, that proximity is very cramped. And there's like almost no surgeons in the world that would be willing to do reconstructive surgery for someone at my age, just for a sport right there, because it sounded like a high probability of nicking the aorta or another critical artery that could cause you to bleed out. And so it just sounded like a very high risk thing. And that's why we went the PRP stem cell route. But end of the story is that it did work out, whether it was all of the treatment or all of the rest or a combo of it or some spiritual stuff, and just trying to maintain self-belief and having the support system of a family and doctors and people believing in me. I don't know. But at the end of it all, in 2016, I was healthy enough to start swinging a club again. And within like 1 month of even starting to practice, I played a pro tournament. And then within my first 5 pro tournaments, I picked up my first win. It's just a one-day small thing, but it was just this, from where I was down in the dumps thinking, because all the doctors were like, dude, you're done. Like this will be a success if we can get you back to doing some like moderate exercise and, being able to walk around and stuff, but you're not going to be a golfer again, and you're not going to be banging weights around again. So to go from that to, competing and then actually picking up a win fairly quickly on the pro circuit, I was just, I to this day stand by it. That was literally the power of gratitude. That had nothing to do with like, I'm really good at golf. I probably was trash. My swing was probably trash, but I was just so overjoyed by having this one thing back, which is really the only thing I had focused on my whole life, that I think I wish I could bottle that and bring it to the table every single day, because it's a powerful thing. Gratitude is like the secret 100%. Sauce. I think.
Thanks for sharing the story, man. I appreciate it. I can only imagine myself and Don, we are nowhere near that level as far as golf, but as an avid runner, and I love to work out. Running and lifting is kind of that stress relief for me. It's that mental escape. And so at that age, when you're literally potentially going to be a professional golfer, have sponsors, and then now you're told that you probably aren't going to be able to play golf ever again or lift. I mean, what's going through your mind? I know you said like you got a lot of family with the support system and all that, but I mean, you're kind of almost on the top, like thinking like you're so close here, and then all of a sudden you take 10 steps backwards out of some freak crazy thing that you've never even heard of. I mean, it's got to be pretty mess with your mental psyche for sure.
Yeah. What did you do to stay like, obviously I don't want to say mentally fit, but like mentally, I guess, ready for like worst case scenario, or be like, hey, like I'm going to beat it. I'm going to come back. I'm going to dominate. Like, I guess how did you keep that mental strength? Because I feel like a lot of people just don't have that, especially with the game of golf, let alone something that affects your game of golf outside of golf.
Right. Yeah, it was the biggest test of my life up to that point. And now it makes perfect sense. I feel like every single challenge that I'm being given it's great. Like in the moment, it may suck and you're going to be complaining about having to go through it. But when you can look in the rearview mirror 1 or 2 years removed, you're like, dude, that's exactly what I needed. Like I am being given all of these amazing challenges to hopefully one day grow into a true leader and a great father and a great person in the world. Like these are all, you want to go through these things. Like don't pray for an easy path. And I think that was my first iteration of experiencing that. Although maybe I didn't realize it at the time. At the time it was crushing. It was the first experience I ever had with like depression and anxiety. I don't think I even believed in those words up to that point in life. I had been just a super optimistic, positive, enthusiastic, happy kid, big dreams, supportive family, good friends. Like there was not a lot to complain about. And then this was the first thing that was like, I just don't see a solution to this. And so what I did to try to stay, somewhat fit. At first I was working. When I got out of college, I took a job immediately as a caterer for a local barbecue company, actually with one of my college teammates. He was my teammate and roommate, and he was doing it, playing pro. And then I graduated a year later. He got me into it. That was keeping me busy. And then, at some point during the treatment, the doctor actually negotiated with me to quit that job because he thought that even that was too physical. And he's like, I literally just want you to like sit at home, like just sit down, dude. I need you fully in on this. And we kind of went into the spiritual, like emotional realm as well, because I'll tell you what it did over time was it made me think that maybe I was crazy and like I was somehow creating this, because there was just not enough like firm like evidence, like what should be taking years to recover here. It just seemed like all roads were pointing to the fact that like, hey dude, you're a head case. And like, you're kind of trying to like, I think my best summary of it looking back is that this was going to be like a shattering life experience to another level. Like you have a limiting belief system in place, and you're about to break through to the next level and, really achieve your lifelong dream, become a professional golfer. That's, I had been dreaming of that since I was 10, and you're so close to making it happen. And that stress and pressure, you haven't done the self-improvement personal work yet to convince yourself that you are that person that you're about to become. And so you find some way subconsciously to like manifest something that holds you back where you're comfortable. I think this was because now, having lived another almost 10 years, I've experienced that many, many more times. And I'm much more of a believer in just how much your mind controls where you go physically in the real world. And so I think that's part of what was going on. And at the time, didn't really understand that. And it kind of made me feel crazy. But to try to answer your question of what did I do? I watched my swing a lot. I watched like old videos of myself golfing. I guess you could call it visualization, but just trying to picture myself as being healthy, happy outside, doing what I loved, remembered the good tournaments I had in the past. And then that's kind of when I got into social media too. I was like unwilling to just turn into a loser and only watch TV every day. And I was like, what can I do that's constructive in this time? I was really resisting getting another job. A lot of people were kind of pointing like, dude, I think you need to hang it up, go, use your degree, get a marketing job, And I was like, I just don't think that's my path in life. And so I started, as I was sifting through all these old golf videos and pictures, I started trying to build Instagram. That was my first attempt in 2015 at trying to make a lot of content and sending my pictures and videos and stuff to different bigger Instagram accounts for reposts. And I would tell my story to everyone in a DM and, ask for some exposure here and there. And I mean, just freaking grinded at it and built, I don't know, a couple thousand followers or something, but it was keeping me busy at the time with something positive. And I was starting to listen to podcasts from other entrepreneurs and social media, creators. And I was becoming very interested in videography and cinematography and storytelling and podcasts and people that were pushing this notion of like, hey, why wait until you get to the end destination to tell your story? Like there's so much value for the world in sharing the process on the way there. Because guess what? Everyone else is on their own journey, experiencing their own process of growth. Very, very few people are at the pinnacle of a sport or a job or, that end destination that we all think we're trying to get to. Almost no one's there. So when we watch, the top 100 golfers in the world hoisting a trophy on Sunday, or when we watch an ESPN 30 for 30 on LeBron, like it's cool content and it is inspiring in its own way, but it's not as relatable to somebody on a little closer to your level, starting to make content and almost make it like a TV show that you can be inspired watching them make a bunch of mistakes and not knowing the outcome. So there was a lot of that kind of rhetoric that I was starting to learn and listen to from different podcasts. And I think that was also inspiring me to feel like, hey man, I know you want to like, win a tournament and be a pro and be sponsored and like start sharing your journey then. But I think you got it backwards. You need to start talking like right now when you're down bad, you have no idea if you're ever even going to get up. Like how cool will this story be if we fast forward 10 years and like this was a starting point? Like this was when you brought people in to start paying attention to your journey. And then eventually you did become, the pinnacle of your sport. And even if not, the good that you do for the world just by sharing it will outweigh any end destination you had in your mind in the first place. So that kind of stuff got me through. Yeah.
I'm ready to run through a wall.
Yeah. You got me jacked up, ready to go.
like there's a wall right there. It's not going to be there in an hour.
Man, I am a firm believer. I'm a pretty positive person myself too. And I like how you see that like is so cool, because I feel like so many people miss that. Like they don't, it's like they run into something like that and then they kind of go backwards, right? It's kind of, they start to, why me, or like this shouldn't have happened to me, and they don't pursue that. They kind of just give up on that dream. And that's awesome, man. Like I said, a great story. And we've talked about before we hopped on, but like I said, you're turning in the right direction, and keep grinding, because it's fun to watch on Instagram, your YouTube channel. With that being said, you just finished up the Dakota tour, correct?
Correct.
So can you, for some of the listeners who might not know, so the Dakota tour is a tour, is it out of the Dakotas? Is that maybe a dumb question, but is that?
No, not dumb. Yeah, it is. It's, and I was in Minnesota.
A little dumb. Yeah. Alex is nice enough to call me out on that.
In South Dakota, North Dakota, Iowa, and Minnesota. Primarily South Dakota. We're close to Sioux Falls for most of it. It is 17 tournaments over the course of 11 weeks, like mid-June till right around September 1st, something like that. And it's quite historic. It's been around for like 45 years, and it's turned into like, I'm biased and I haven't played every mini tour, but I think it's probably one of the top 3 mini tours. And for those who don't know, there's a distinction between, so these are not like world sanctioned tours. And that just means like, we're not getting world ranking points for playing on the Dakotas tour. Sure. We're just playing for cash and, great prizes, good prize money. But things like the Corn Ferry Tour, which is one step below the PGA, and then the Canadian Tour or the Latin American Tour or the China Tour, those are all one step below Corn Ferry, and they promote to the Corn Ferry if you have a successful season there. But all those tours that I just mentioned and about 30 others worldwide have qualifying schools every year, or Q school for short. And so that's like the main designation. If the tour has a Q school to get on it, it's because once you're on the tour, you're like an official, like pro golfer, accumulating world ranking points in some capacity, usually playing for a little bit more money with a few more sponsors involved. So the Dakotas is just a mini tour. It's not classified the same as those, meaning, anyone can technically sign up and play if they are a pro and have the money for it. But out of, there could be hundreds of mini tours worldwide, and there's certainly, probably at least 100 in the States here. There's a ton. And out of those, I think the Dakotas could be in the top 3, just in terms of strength of fields, winning scores and stuff like that. And the occasional PGA guy or Corn Ferry guys that are in our tournaments. And then also the prize money that we're playing for. Great tour.
So this is all new to me up until like an hour and a half ago.
Cool. Can teach you.
So I'm learning. I'm having a learning experience. We had a lot of big medical words. So it goes Dakotas, and then you're going to go to the Q school, and then from there do you go to the Corn Ferry? Is that how that works, or do you go to the school, try to qualify, and then Corn Ferry?
Yeah, so you play in Corn Ferry Tour Q school, and I just did actually about 10 days ago. I just finished that in Omaha. There's 4 stages. So this is separate from the Dakotas. You don't have to do the Dakotas to do this. Anybody can just pay the huge sum of money that it is, play in the Q school. It's 4 stages. And if you make it, then you go to the Corn Ferry Tour.
Got it. Okay.
So it's pretty expensive for someone just to like qualify to pay for the qualifier
it's $6,500 for Corn Ferry Tour Q school, just the entry fee, but you could double that with the travel and hotel.
That'd be a fun fantasy football punishment. Loser has to do the Q school and try to make it.
An expensive one, that's for sure. So there's 4 stages.
3 fantasy drafts in like a week. It's like my brain's like
it's all on the
fantasy football. God, I'm genius.
So there's 4 stages. Does that mean that there's 4 rounds of golf, basically? Like the first round, you depending on where you're sitting, you get
each stage is 4 rounds, actually.
Oh, each stage is 4 rounds.
Yes.
Okay. So how many people are typically in like a qualifier? Is there like a full is there a limit of how many they'll allow?
The one that I just played in Omaha had like 68 guys and I believe 29 advanced.
Okay.
And then that number is going to decrease in the future. At the very end of it all, I think 25 guys make it out of like 10,000 nationwide because there's many sites at the same time. So I played in Omaha, and then there was 2 or 3 others happening simultaneously. And then another week later, there was another round of 3 or 4, and that's all just first stage. It's a huge thing because in golf, at least right now, PGA Tour is in America where everyone wants to play. And the only way to get there is to do the Korn Ferry Tour Q School, play 1 full year on the Korn Ferry Tour, and then finish within the top 25 on the money list of the Korn Ferry Tour, and then get promoted to the PGA. And I could be wrong if any of my other fellow pro golf friends are watching. I could be off by 5 or 10 on those numbers because it sometimes changes from year to year. But give or take, at the end of the season on the Korn Ferry Tour, roughly 25 guys get promoted to PGA. And that's, as of now, about the only way. You can play Monday qualifiers the week of a PGA Tour event. And if you just absolutely ball out, then you could get into a PGA Tour event technically without having any Korn Ferry status or anything else. But then even in that position, you would need to like almost top 10 in that event to make enough money to play the next week. So
it's very competitive.
Yeah, it's competitive. And really from start to finish, it's almost a full year and a half route. You do the Korn Ferry Q School, which goes from September through either late November or early December. If you get through all 4 stages, then you would play the next season on the Korn Ferry Tour from January all the way through September, hopefully finish high enough. And then you would start the PGA season after that. So a little more than a year. So it's crazy.
So do you ever just like side hustle people for money so you can just pay for your Q School?
I honestly,
it's like a pool shark, just like show up like you've never played golf before.
When I first was like trying to make some funny YouTube videos and thinking of concepts, I thought that would be great. I was like, dude, you need to dress as an old man or just act like a hacker. And
that's in the new Kevin Hart movie on Netflix. It's called Me Time.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
So there's a scene where he goes and he's like a single, right? And he goes, "Hey, I just want to play." He gets paired up with a group of 3 older women, and he's like, "Oh, like yeah, we like want to do like $100 a hole, whatever." And the lady's like, "Yeah, sure." And he hits it kind of short, and then the older lady just smashes it. Yeah. And he ends up just getting smoked by all of them and has like the worst day of his life.
That's what I do though. It's like those, they see like some of the wrestler guys are like, "Hey, $100 if you could take me down." And he looks like he's just like a grungy dude. Next thing you know, the guy's like an Olympian wrestler. But that's what you should have been doing out there.
Actually get more scrappy with it. You're right.
Yeah. More scrappy, man. That's so back to the Q School. So I was just or the Korn Ferry Tour. So if you do make it onto the Korn Ferry Tour and you don't finish in the top 25 for the top 25 players, do you have to restart? Like, do you have to start back over from the like next year, like that you have to like earn your way back onto the Korn Ferry Tour again, or are you still on the Korn Ferry Tour?
That's a good question. I think it's scaled. I'm pretty sure like 26 through 75. Maybe they retain conditional status, which conditional just means like you don't get starts in every event, but you get some of the events. Maybe I think maybe 26 through 75 gets conditional, and then those other guys have to go back to first stage or something like that. I think it's just based. There's probably maybe 200 guys on the Korn Ferry Tour throughout the entire season that at least get to play some events.
Sure. And I was only asking for my friend Alex, so that's why I was just checking.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, it's gonna be at least another year for me. I didn't make it this year, but oh well.
I said that you got to have the. I mean, you've already came from like where you've came from, though. Like you said, it's you just got to continue the positivity and keep grinding. Can you dive into that though? The you heading out to Italy for the Q School? What's that gonna be like? How long are you staying out there?
Yeah, I'm leaving on Monday. Today, as we're recording this, is Tuesday. So 6 days from now, I will be on a plane and I'll be there for about 14 days. And Yeah, this is a big year for me. This was my first time ever doing Corn Ferry Tour Q School. That's kind of like the holy grail of being a pro golfer. We play various mini tours throughout the year, try to somehow not lose all of our money, and then once it's time to play Q schools, it's like, oh, this is the time of year when careers can change. We're basically trying to get a job for next year. Your job is until you have status on like a bigger tour, and that makes you much more attractive to sponsors as well. It just is sort of like how we grade what level of pro golfer you are. Are you just like a guy at the country club that's really good and hustles people for money and every now and then plays a pro tournament? Or are you like on the PGA tour, or are you somewhere in between? All these different tours that have Q schools is kind of how we rank that. And so, yeah, I've never done Corn Ferry Tour Q school before. I have one time I did PGA Tour Latino America Q school. That was last December. And I came within 8 strokes over the course of 4 days there, which it's, still wasn't that close, but I felt like I wasn't delusional. I felt like, yeah, I definitely could have seen how this week went different. And I got a Latino America card. And as I was describing earlier, that's one notch below Corn Ferry. At the end of a Latino America season, they promote a few guys to the Corn Ferry. So that's another option to get there. So that was encouraging last year. And then this year I'm trying to load them up, and obviously they're all expensive and there's a lot of variables and how many I'll be able to do. But the most immediate one that I am committed to right now is, and it's I guess I should correct myself. It's called the DP World Tour right now. That was formerly the European Tour, but
I've heard of that one.
Yeah, they just have, they change sponsors all the time. So
yeah.
Anyway, it's going to be in Italy, and this is a similar to Corn Ferry Tour Q School where there's multiple stages and multiple sites. So the DP World Tour has 3 stages. And I'm going to be bringing my best friend with me to caddy, which I'm really excited for. I almost never have a caddy for any of this stuff because I'm traveling all over and just not at the level yet where you can afford to pay someone as an employee to be there with you all the time. And my family still works. So even though if I'm home, my dad made caddy for me and stuff, it's just, it's kind of not an option. And I really felt in Corn Ferry Q School that I would have performed probably better with the caddy. I wish that I had one. And so I tried to find a way to make it work to bring a friend with me there. So that's definitely lining up to be the trip of a lifetime.
Sounds awesome. So you can have a caddy. You just like on any of these events, you can have caddies.
Yeah. And the ratio is maybe 50-50 in Q school of guys that are on their own versus having a caddy. But it does help straight up. It's the most high pressure environment you could ever put yourself in golf, arguably more high pressure than once you actually get to the next level, because then you have job security. It's like, all right, I'm on the Corn Ferry Tour, I'm on the PGA Tour. But when you're in Q school, you are just scrapping for your life and you're shelling out an inordinate amount of money you're not even in a tournament to make it back. It's just a donation. And if you win, you get your card. That's the prize. And so it's this crazy environment where if you could have a friend out there to just try to keep you level headed, I think it should benefit. So I'm really excited to test that theory out and see, because I know I'm making progress. I know I'm getting better. Always much more room to improve. But after just playing for 2.5 months straight, no doubt I've gotten better at golf. And so I feel like it's mostly about keeping my head in the right place to where I make smart decisions, even in the face of duress, because that's just inevitable. It happened to me several times in this Corn Ferry Tour Q School, just super high stress situations, rulings with officials, or maybe you're on the clock, just things just happen. And it's not like a chill, low key tournament with your buddies where it's like not a big deal and everyone. It's just like the biggest deal. And so to have just a co-pilot to help you navigate that, I think could be really huge. So I'm looking forward to this one and hoping for a better result.
Well, yeah, I wish you nothing but the best of luck. And I'm speechless. I'm so excited for you. I can't even talk right now. But I was going to ask, when you like taking the mental side out of it, what is the best part of your game?
Gotcha. I think right now the best part of my game is probably short to mid irons. I kind of developed this shot throughout the course of the summer. South Dakota, I think I could be wrong. Someone fact check me. I think it's the windiest state in America.
There's no trees.
Like on the golf course. Yeah. And it just kind of forced me to develop this like sawed off finish knockdown shot where I just take like a 3/4 follow through. And what I noticed throughout the course of the summer, even once some of the days weren't so windy, I just wanted to continue using that shot because it seemed like there was less room for error. The harder I swing at it, and some guys will disagree and have different experience, but at least for me right now, it seems like the harder I swing at it, the more room for error there is, both in the contact of the golf ball and then also in like the curvature and the direction that I hit it. And so I kind of just, for the first time in my whole career, for the last month and a half, 2 months, I've been really relying on this little like knockdown iron shot. And it's been very dependable. I'm not missing that many greens. So I feel like most of my days are kind of just coming down to like, did you make a lot of putts? And most of the summer I didn't. And that's the case for most golfers. When the putter gets hot, that's usually when they shoot good scores. So
putting's always been the most difficult for me too. And when you're playing in these tournaments, you're traveling so much that I would imagine each green is rolling totally different. I mean, from course to course, I don't know if there's a set roll that they keep them at, but for the I'm sure it just varies. So you might be rolling a pretty good one course and it could be a totally different speed the next course, which, you know what I mean? So, yeah. We want to talk a little bit of food because we always talk food. And then we have some rapid fire questions for you and then we'll kind of wrap things up. But when you're on the course, is there a go-to snack that you have in the bag that you pull out, like maybe for me, it's peanut M&Ms.
What are you getting at the turn?
Yeah. I'm pretty robotic with it in tournament golf. If I'm just playing for fun, then sure, I'm a little more relaxed. But tournament days, I have a smoothie in the morning, and if I'm at home, I make it myself. My goal is to put as many veggies in there as I can: spinach and kale, almond milk, almond butter, protein powder, creatine, and then blueberries and bananas. And then if I'm on the road, trying to get the closest variation of that I can from some smoothie shop. And then on the course, it's just really like 2 or 3 protein bars or 2 protein bars and then an apple and almonds. I've just seemed to have the most success with that rather than like I used to do peanut butter and jelly sandwiches when I was a kid. I used to do Snickers bars and Gatorades. I used to always get hot dogs at the turn. Like I don't know, man. I seem to get a little more fatigued from that now. It seems like I don't really need that many calories, but I need them to be fairly consistent. Like every 5 or 6 holes, I eat something.
Sure.
And, I'm a big fan of blueberry crisp Cliff Bars. And the trick is you leave them in your bag so they get kind of warm. So it's like a handheld pie. That's
warm it up.
Especially because like here in Minnesota, it still is hot and I'm over it. But like it's like 95, 96. And you're like, oh, throw in the bag, getting nice and toasty. That's the move.
That's the move, huh?
That's the move.
I was gonna say, let me say like a hot dog at the turn. We've had these debates and not, but someone had posted a video. Actually, I reposted it, but I've never heard of a clubhouse called a halfway house. Is that a term that you're familiar with? Because that just sound like whenever I think of halfway house, I think of literally like the Slammer or something like prison.
The Slam.
Something like that. I do not think like halfway house. But somebody had brought it up. I've never heard of a halfway house as far as a clubhouse at the turn.
I don't think I have either.
Yeah, it was. What was his face?
I have no idea.
Joey Coldcuts. It was a sick place, and he was like, "Dude, this is the best halfway house I've ever seen." And I'm like, I don't know what he's talking about. Someone had to point it out. It makes sense. It's halfway. It makes sense, but I've never heard of it before.
That's classic.
So, but
it's dumb.
It was weird.
It's the clubhouse.
Okay, so we got a couple rapid fire questions for you. Nothing too crazy. We're gonna let them rip. So the first one is pants or shorts on the golf course?
Pants.
Hat, bucket hat, or no hat?
Hat.
What driver is in your bag?
Ping G425 with an Atmos shaft from Fujikara.
Love it. What is your favorite taco place? Or smoothie place?
Oh, okay. Give me a smoothie place. Yeah. It's called Juice Stop in the Midwest. You guys have it in Minnesota, right?
Juice Stop?
What is it?
Maybe not. Maybe that's just South Dakota.
We do have a shake shop that's actually attached to our building, and it's pretty legit. Actually, the guy lives here, and they're awesome smoothies. So if you're in the Minneapolis area, we got you covered.
I'm Googling it. Where's the closest one? The closest one to us is in Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
I was tripping. Okay.
Juice Stop. Okay.
Which is hold on. We're Googling it.
It's like 3
It's
hours.
a 4 hours away from us, so we'll start driving.
What is your favorite golf shoe right now to wear, and a golf shoe you wish you had?
True Links Wear OG 1.2s. Those are the stuff, man. I've been wearing those for a while. A pair that I wish I had. They are. That's why I love them. They're so comfy. I wish that I had the FootJoy Icons. I used to rock those in college. Just it looks so nice, but they're not nice to my feet. They just hurt my feet. So
that was a good rapid fire answer. That was quick. Sure, that's right. Early morning golf or twilight golf?
Twilight.
Hell yeah.
Okay, interesting. What is your favorite club in your bag right now?
3-wood. It's a Titleist, like 13.5 degree, whatever the newest model is. They got all these numbers in there. I forget 920 something or
something like that. Favorite golfer?
Tiger Woods. Boring, I know. Sorry.
So no, it's boring.
Favorite golf course that you've played? This is a no-brainer, I think.
Honestly, it'll surprise you. Cypress Point in Monterey.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's sick.
Insane golf course. Yep.
Okay, so a bucket list course that you would like to play?
Augusta.
Oh, duh. Yeah.
I know. I'm just thinking that. This could be a hot take, but PGA or Live? If you got your chance right now to play, we're putting you on the spot.
PGA. Yeah.
PGA. Okay. And so we always kind of end with our podcast episode. We talk about a restaurant or a favorite meal.
Hold on, we're not going to end because there's a hot take that you didn't go over.
Which one was that?
So hold on. Everyone we've had on, other than me, prefers.
I'm scrolling to see what hot take is.
Prefers like early morning golf. I can't stand early morning golf because that means I have to wake up.
Yeah.
I'm not a morning person. I'm incredibly crabby and very groggy.
That is true.
Derek has seen me. Man. If I'm not, I can do it. It's not my favorite thing.
But he lets you know.
What about twilight golf makes it better? Because I have my reasons.
Yeah. So that was how my dad and I always did it. You know, parents work and stuff. So when we could go golf was the end of the day. And then it was always a special thing for us to do glow ball golf. We would bring glow balls and finish the last like 2 holes in the dark. And
that's super smart.
And the course is more empty. You can usually, we did it, I think, 1, because they had to work, and 2, because twilight rounds are cheaper. That was always the rate would reduce. But yeah, we just enjoyed playing golf kind of at our own pace by ourselves. And then that transferred to me, and I find myself gravitating towards that almost whenever I possibly can. The only times that I play early is if I know that the tournament I'm about to play is early. And so I need to be trying to like mimic the pattern that week is going to take. So my sleep schedule is not all jacked up. Like, I've been sleeping in and playing at 4 p.m. And then now Q school starting at 7 a.m. and waking up at 4 a.m. is like the hardest thing in the world. So sometimes I'll scale myself for those things. But if I have my choice, man, like having to wake up early and stretch out and warm up when it's cold, and then like swing a driver 120 at 7 a.m, it just like is not my favorite. I can do it better.
Right?
Yeah.
Those are good answers. And don't get me wrong, I'm not hating on twilight golf. I absolutely love twilight golf too. But I am when I was younger, I used to love staying up late and sleeping in. But as like the older I've gotten, I've just like tried to like embrace the whole day. And for some reason, like getting up really early and not having to even worry about an alarm clock, or you set it like 7 times, even though you wake up before the alarm goes off. There's just something about that I really like. But I love twilight golf, so there is no hate on that. But I like the glow ball. That's a good idea, because we played twilight golf, and then like especially if you're like walking, it's like at that point you don't have to worry about bringing a cart in. Just hit a couple of glow balls and finish.
I like it because it's letting me kind of work on things throughout my game without having to like bug the people behind me for holding it up, or you kind of go at your own pace. And yeah, if you only get in, maybe you're doing like a twilight 9, you only get in 5, who cares? It's like half the price anyways. That's how I've always looked at it.
Clutch. And I love going to like dinner right after, like the day's kind of done. Like it's hard for me to play golf and then you're done at noon, and it's like, okay, well, you can't be like a lazy piece of crap now. Like the whole day is ahead of you. You got to do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But when golf gets you tired and it's the end of the day, it's like perfectly acceptable to like go get a burrito and go home and go to bed.
No, I love it.
Oh yeah.
You go grab, tacos, whatever. You take a shower, you go to bed. Like best thing.
Do you when you play in a tournament in the morning, do you find yourself like playing another round, just like practice itself, just kind of like get some maybe the kinks out or whatnot that you've like, yeah, this wasn't feeling right, so I want to work on this. Do you spend like, because I know you document a lot of your stuff, and I'm so impressed by like how you use your day. I mean, time management's got to be something very important to you. The way you were able to edit videos, you go to the gym, which I'm, like I said, I'm a big gym person, but go to the gym, go golf, eat, then go back to the gym, go play some more golf. I mean, it's crazy how you can kind of keep all of that in 24 hours. But so how many hours you put on the golf course, like after you play a tournament?
Yeah. There's definitely there's levels to it. Some guys will sit out there and hit balls for 2 or 3 hours. I used to feel like I just couldn't handle it. Like physically, this was just too much. Playing, 4 straight rounds of golf in a tournament, like that's already hard enough. So when I get off the course, I need to shut it down. And I feel like I'm in better shape than I used to be when I was younger, just because I understand more about my body now, and I'm kinder to myself with food. I still struggle big time. Like, you would probably never assume this about me, but I like crushed sweets. I love sweets. I've had my fair share of trouble with like portion control of eating. And so we just all have habits and patterns and stuff. And so when I build momentum in the right direction, it's easier to stay there. And if I have tournaments coming up, to me, that feels like a job, and that makes me want to treat everything in my life more serious. And it is like so insanely noticeable to me that my body is less sore when I'm not eating no sugar, because obviously some of the fruit in the smoothies has sugar, but like being very intentional about trying
more
to
natural.
Yeah.
Not having sweets and not having anything that's like, it's bad. It's good and it's bad. And I'm trying to make the right choices with food. When I do that, my rate of recovery, both from the gym and also golf, is literally like twice as good to where I used to be getting, because it's just inflammation in the body, right? And so it's gonna hurt. And I used to feel like my fingers would be sore, and I needed to, chill on how many balls I hit. My toes would be sore, and muscles are more sore from the gym. But when I'm really on it, I feel like I'm almost limitless with how much time I could be putting in physically to golf. And so with all that being said, as the preface, like this summer, for instance, the way I structured things was, again, just with editing being like a large part of my lifestyle and job right now, golf not being the only thing on my plate, kind of had to pick and choose my moments. But for my best golf to come out, then yes, after a tournament round, absolutely, get food and then come back and treat it like a practice session. Try to keep it under 3 hours, but hit some balls, hit some putts, hit some chips, whatever the things were that were aggravating that day, work on it. And I noticed that even just in 1 week's time, like that way of structuring my time on the golf course is so much more. I get much more out of my game than if I just play a tournament and then put the clubs in the trunk, go home. And I think all the best guys in the world are doing the same thing. It's not even like, oh, I just finished tournament, done. Even when they play good, that's what impresses me. And I just salute to the guys on tour I'm playing against, that almost every time the guy that's winning the tournament, he goes to practice after. And I'm like, dude, you are an animal. Like, what's wrong with your game, right? You just kicked everyone's ass in the field. Like, you're good. Go eat.
Yeah,
go home.
you don't need to go practice for 3 more hours.
That's why they're up at the top. They deserve it. And I need to be more like that.
That's the whole like sugar thing kind of reminded me of Tom Brady though. He's like, what, 40 some years old, and he's just
45.
He looks he looks a lot healthier, but that was one of the things he cut out was sugar. I mean, he said it's 9-day difference on his physique and how he feels. So, but that is me. I'm a terrible with portion control. Like, I can stay away from it, but if it's in front of me when it comes to like sweets, like I'll eat the whole bag, and that's my problem. But so we're gonna step aside from like the healthy foods. I want to get your all-time favorite meal, whether it's homemade meal or your favorite restaurant. It could be, you could pick a healthy one and you could pick a non-healthy one. What would it be?
And for the record, Derek and I killed a family-sized bag of Skittles in like an hour.
We were talking about how we just saw articles about how they're like banning them like all over the place because they're containing what was it?
Some kind of chemical, but yeah, he's chemical. Like, hey, have you more of the Skittles? So I had one of those like shareable size bag.
Yeah, we
killed the entire bag.
It was my stomach was not happy with me.
I was pretty pumped.
Crazy. Dude, I think Sushi, like regular sushi rolls, not even like the hardcore sashimi, just the regular sushi rolls that are the ninja this and red dragon that, like, man, that hits a spot. It's always that in Mexican. Those are my two favorite. Maybe like a wet burrito at a Mexican restaurant. That's like, I live in Oxnard, which is probably 70% a Hispanic community. And so I definitely grew up with tons of cool Mexican food spots, like real authentic stuff. And some of my best friends were Mexican and showed me these different places. And so and I feel like everyone likes Mexican food, man. What's wrong with you?
You can't go wrong with Mexican food.
But it's a neck and neck battle. Anytime I'm like coming home from a long trip and family's asking like, what would be the best meal you would want tonight? It's always dead even 50-50 toss up between a Mexican restaurant or sushi. And they're so different too, right? I couldn't pick two more like
opposites. Yeah.
But what about you guys?
Well, you have to listen to our last week episode then with Tacos at the Turn with Nelson.
Yeah.
It's literally an hour of just tacos. And he's from California as well. So maybe you can go visit some of the places he said, but it's straight up an hour of tacos.
Amazing.
We're trying to get tacos at his is Tacos at the Turn is his Instagram handle. It's his business. And so it's not just hot dogs, or glizzies is what people would refer them to, but we're trying to get like, who wouldn't want some like a nice little taco shop? I mean, I know you're very healthy, but
you can make tacos
but
healthy.
You can still make tacos healthy. Yeah. But I mean,
they're not good, but you could do it.
But so we were trying to break that, it's like everyone talks about hot dog, but why not talk? Everyone loves tacos or like Mexican food, and so they need to set up some of these shops, or at the halfway house.
Let's go.
Oh my halfway house. so going back, he asked us what we would want. Oh God, you have to go first. I have to think.
So I'm gonna go with my wife's or my mother-in-law's homemade mole. My wife is Hispanic. She's a Latina. And so, I get treated with some really good dishes. So if it's a homemade meal, I'm definitely going with a mole with some rice. Yeah. If it's out in a restaurant, I'd probably say Manny's Steakhouse, which is downtown Minneapolis. It's very good.
Cool. Okay.
Oh God. Okay. So I would go with Derek's wife's salsa. That's no lie. It's like
just for dinner. You just want salsa?
Just give me a big. I've been asking her for a freaking jar of it for like a year and a half. Realistically, we make like we like slow cook pork chops all day and like cream of chicken and stuff like that, and then with mashed potatoes and some corn and then the gravy.
Oh,
I mean, we're in the Midwest. It's cold like 6 months out of the year, so we got to have like the warm comfort food. Right. Otherwise, if I'm going out, one of my favorite places, and I don't think it's well known, it's Granite City. There's one in Maple Grove. There's a couple other ones around Minnesota as well.
Well, they're good.
That's like, that's like one of my favorite places. Did you get the Idaho nachos?
No, what the heck did I get?
So the Idaho nachos is one of their appetizers. It's a plate full of waffle fries covered in cheese, bacon, and onion.
Oh my gosh, that does sound good.
Oh, dude, it's bomb. And then like everything else on their menu is just really good.
Yeah, I like Granite City. I think there's one in Fargo too. Like a couple of the stops.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, it's not like, I don't think it's like all over the place, but like that's one place I always want to go. Like the food's good. They make their own beer. The beer's really good. And then like all the apps are good.
Well, you mentioned sushi. So I said, if you're ever in our area, Minneapolis, we'll treat you out. We got the Shake Shop for breakfast in the morning. And then there's a place that just opened up. It's a pretty high end. It's called Billy's Sushi, and it's a really famous sushi place. And so a lot of people really enjoy it. I'm not a huge sushi fan myself, but
no, you got to cook it.
Things, so, but Alex, man, I appreciate you taking the time, and you're a guest on our 50th episode. So that means a lot to us. So we really appreciate it. So thank you so much for just, talking about your story. I think people that are listening are going to be super grateful that they did listen to it, because I think it's a great message and great story, man. We're nothing but rooting for you here, and we hope that you do well in Italy.
Thank you guys so much. Yeah, it was fun. Had a good time chopping it up, and talk again soon.
Yeah, once you're on that tour, man, we'll have you in the near future here.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'm gonna do my best.
All right, take care.
We'll make it.
Take care.
Deuces.